Hey everybody, it's Jillian Epperly, and um, this, people call this a pandemic, this whole epidemic, pandemic, and maybe it's true, maybe it's not. I've been watching these videos I've been watching, but I look at my news feed and I see the conspiracy community promoting the whole Judy Mikovits, and even in my in this pharmaceutical group that is creating vaccines, they are passing on the same video by Judy Mikovits, and essentially what they're doing is they're seeing who that vaccine company is that supposedly, allegedly created these strains of viruses that have caused a lot of death and destruction, and so that is their justification of why their one vaccine company is better over another one, because one basically went through shortcuts. They shortcutted the process, which create all these then different strains and anomalies and potentially pandemics like AIDS and something else. So there's a lot of agendas going on utilizing Judy Mikovitz's video in exposing Dr. Fauci and all of their cohorts and administration. And I'm going to say this. At this point, it doesn't even matter if you believe in vaccines or not, because no matter what, we have so many people who are imbalanced. And here's the thing. You can blame the vaccines, you can blame the viruses in the environment, but no matter what, if the body doesn't have what it takes to handle the environment, it's not going to live. It's not going to live. So maybe we need to reset it back to the days of the Inca. Maybe it's time to reset everything back to the days of the Inca, where there were no vaccines and there were no modern medicine. Maybe there's a few holistic remedies, but even then, those at this point, holistic remedies are only good on very strong bodies that just need a little bit of help if they don't have something like jillyjuice. Like back in the olden days, back before fermentation, I mean, they had fermentation back then, but it was a different kind of fermentation. Back before they really truly knew how to harness the elements, they had very strong bodies. And the bodies that were not strong enough for the environment, they didn't have a vaccine to help it through. No, it just died. The baby just died, or it was a stillborn, or the mother never just got pregnant. Or she did get pregnant, the baby just died because they couldn't handle the environment. There was nothing to help it acclimate. And so at this point, we have 7 billion people, of which most, if not all, are very imbalanced. And so this whole anti-vax, the whole, demonizing, the doctors, which I understand because they are contributing to the issues. But what we're doing now is, what I've been seeing is this planned activism against the vaccines. So people are scared to get them, of which then we are going to relive days of the Inca. So this last couple months of the lockdown, where we kind of see how people react, we see how infrastructure, how much stress the infrastructure can take with people at home, with people getting sick. And we're seeing that, yes, the virus is mutating, yes. People are positive, even in the meat industry. And the weakest people are dying when we have no vaccines. So the weakest people are dying. The lockdown is a type of immunization because it slows the spread. It slows the rapid antibody accumulation because you're not going to be exposed as much. So once they lift the restrictions and they figured out what the hospitals can deal with, they realize, if there's a lot of people getting sick in like infrastructure, let's say like Tyson meat packing plants. Let's say people get sick. Well, there's always going to be another person that's stronger that's going to take over their job. Okay, so in a lot of ways, once we understand how to keep the infrastructure going without the majority of the population, see, that's what I'm seeing, is that when when they allow people to mix, they allow the virus to just do what it has to do, and people are anti-vax anyways, and there's no vaccine too. This, we're going to see exactly how the fall of the Inca Empire came to be, but it's going to be a planned fall. And I'm actually okay with it, because we have so many imbalanced people that don't know truly what it takes to live, and that, Bill Gates did give people the opportunity to give them a chance to do something with their small window of opportunity. But the predispositions and the people's lack of understanding their body has now shortened their window of opportunity to improve their lives, improve their kids' lives, in such a way where it makes sense in a longevity wise. And so I'm thinking that, the days of the vaccines are over. We don't need to give people who don't understand their bodies a chance. Which means that, should we eradicate the medical industry? Well, of course, but it's not going to happen. But hey, let's do this. I mean, if we have no vaccines and we have a major virus in the environment, regardless of where it came from, well, then we have the hospitals overrun, and then guess what? The medical establishment, who's also perpetuates this problem, are going to have to pick and choose who they're going to help give them life-saving respirators or life-saving protocols to help a person transition. So if you don't get a vaccine to help you in the beginning, then you'll end up getting some kind of complication where you might have to get some kind of medical intervention. But if the hospitals are so overrun with so many people, then guess what? Somebody's going to have to pick and choose who lives and who dies. And then we're seeing how it's going to affect the essential worker industry. Well, we have 7 billion people on this planet, and a lot of people who are needing work. Hey, if you can't handle the environment and you work as an essential worker and you're at home sick, dying, or whatever, and maybe you get medical attention, maybe you don't, there's always going to be somebody behind you that is maybe 5 or 10 years ahead of you as far as longevity, and they'll fill in for that 5 years until you pass away. And then another person behind you who has 5 or 10 years left under their window of opportunity of productivity, they'll fall behind, they'll go behind you and clean up or pick up where you left off. And I can see what is going on, is that Trump and the doctors know they can't control the conspiracy community. They can't control people's, ignorance. So let's do what happened back in the fall of the Inca Empire, but in a more controlled circumstance. And that makes sense, because I want people in my society that's well balanced. Aging and degrading with cancer, disease, and chronic illness create instability. When people are constantly reproducing, they create instability. The instability going up to the maturity level, and then the instability of degrading. So the spread of disease. So this is what I said. Once we understand how to keep the infrastructure going without the majority of the population, we can comfortably eradicate the vaccines and modern medicine. It's time to let Mother Nature do what she intended. No vaccines or procedures or really holistic remedies, because even right now, bodies that have major predispositions can't even handle the holistic remedies. So time for a reset. And so I copy and pasted this specific section in the discoverperu.org, the fall of the Inca Empire. The spread of disease. The collapse of the Inca Empire started when the Spaniards arrived in Central America and transmitted their diseases to locals who spread them to other parts of the continent, including South America. It is believed that in 10 years, between 50 and 90% of the population was attacked by diseases like smallpox, influenza, typhus, diphtheria, chickenpox, and measles. Disease spread alarmingly fast as American Indians did not have the immunity to fight off the newly brought viruses. So those that are anti-vax are only going to eradicate themselves. Those that are weak are only going to eradicate themselves. And people are asking not to be immunized. See, if I was to be a depopulation professional, I would want the people to ask not to get vaccinated. I would want people to ask not to get some kind of immunity. Control of immunity. Right now we have these these patriots, which I give them my credit, they want to be free, but they don't like this lockdown. Lockdown is a type of immunization. It slows the accumulation. They want everyone to move around freely with no type of restrictions. Okay, so you want no vaccines, you want no restrictions, you basically want the spread of disease like the Inca Empire. So let's see what the anti-vaxxers and the freedom fighters are asking for. And this is the planned depopulation. It's psychological operations. If you ask to be depopulated, they will give you what you ask for, because you will give them no choice but to give them, the people that don't understand, you give them what they ask for. So here we go. So it is believed that in 10 years, between 50 and 90% of the population was attacked by diseases like smallpox, influenza, typhus, diphtheria, chickenpox, and measles. Diseases spread alarmingly fast as Amerindians now have the immunity to fight off the newly brought viruses. Influenza and smallpox were the main causes of death among the Inca population, and it affected not only the working class, but also the nobility. As a result, disease weakened the working class, which resulted in lower agricultural output, as well as in the effectiveness of the communication network, which were the backbone in the success of the empire. So without its reliable communication network, which used manpower or chasquis officials in Cusco, the capital did not know what was happening as they were invaded in the north. When the nobility got affected by disease, it unraveled previously unseen struggles for power and a fight for the succession to the crown of the Sapa Inca. The situation triggered a civil war between the supporters of the two brothers Atahualpa and Huascar, which enabled the Spaniards quick access to the control and the wealth of the empire. So we have Facebook, we have the internet, we have Instagram. We already have the modes of communication that only needs a few people to operate. Okay? If you have a few very essential workers that can go operate the skeleton of Facebook and Google and all the different mainframes and processing centers, whatever, you don't need most of the population. See, we're seeing who the essential workers are, and we're seeing who the non-essential workers are. You realize we don't need half the population to run its society. Do we need all of these small businesses who have very limited capabilities and limited privileges or limited benefits for the customers, because they're living on a very tight margin? So you know what's going on right now is the non-essentials are asking to be eradicated. The non-essentials are asking for this type of going back to a reset, back to basics, back to the Inca Empire. Okay? So, I do the best I can to get my information across. Some will get it, some won't. But I mean, even watching some of the investors in some of these vaccines go against their competition and promoting the Judy Mikovits, who is stating that, oh yes, the vaccines are the cause of all these pandemics. No, it's the fact that we have 7 billion people who keep mutating already existing viruses, making them more and more and more contagious and deadly. And so, you know what? I'm all for no more vaccines, but I'll get them if they're mandatory, if they become mandatory. But watch, the people that don't understand vaccines won't get them, and they won't be doing jillyjuice either. So guess what? They're taking themselves out of the genetic line. So this is quite interesting, watching our community and our world be beta tested into seeing who exactly are the essential people, who are not, who is asking to be taken out of the gene pool, and who is like, oh my God, I want to fight for my genes. It's really quite interesting to watch this, and watch it on my Facebook as well. Those that ignore my information and only want to do modern medicine, okay, fine, you'll end up like the doctors and the doctors' parents who are in the ground dead, dying, and whatever. If you want to say no to vaccines and no to jillyjuice, then I guess you'll be like an Inca, nobility as well as a worker who is going to be susceptible to some rampant disease that you have no immunity to, and you're also weakening your body with all the prostaglandin inhibitors in the pills, powder supplements, and detoxes, and prescription drugs, because most likely you're going to end up at that point where you're going to force to be taking prescription drugs because the holistic remedies are not going to be enough. Cannabis alone is not going to help anybody. If anything, cannabis and chemotherapy and all of those holistic remedies will accelerate the death process. So it's quite interesting watching all of this unfold. All I could do is give people information and they could take it on or not. But it's interesting watching people asking for their self-destruction. Watching the anti-vaxxers ask for that, watching those that are against jillyjuice ask for that, and watching those that are taking on the modern medicine only and not doing anything to rebuild their body in an amazing way and deal with the pain. And so, it's like, hey, history repeats itself when you keep making the same mistakes. And so the government is quite smarter than their average population. People are like, oh, I'm anti-government. Okay, don't get the vaccine, don't get jillyjuice, and you will see how your body, mind, and spirit will handle this aggressive environment. We'll see. Oh, but no, you can't catch a virus. This is another video going around. Oh, you can't catch a virus. Only viruses are injected. Are you fucking kidding me? But that's the mentality that's out there. So watching this intentional ignorance is quite entertaining. And so I can only sit back and just eat my popcorn and be like, holy crap, people are falling for it. The anti-vaxxers are falling for the psychological operations. Because yes, there is a plan depopulation, but it's not in what you think. You have the capacity to save yourself, but they want you to ask. They're not going to load you in box cars, okay? Like these people who are trying to resurface the Holocaust. No, they're not going to be loading you in box cars and taking you to FEMA camps and then gassing you to death. Oh no. They know that people are going to blame the nearest thing for their predispositions, whether it's 5G or vaccines or something else or modern medicine, right? And they won't do anything like J-juice, of course, because they're too afraid of the salt. So if people are asking to not do these things, and then they don't have what it takes to be able to handle the environment. And education, of course, obviously some education is going to give people an idea how to circumvent potential problems. So then, yes, you're going to have a person who's not doing jillyjuice, not getting a vaccine, not doing modern medicine, and only doing holistic remedies and going overboard with that. Because the holistic remedy market, people go overboard with that. Yeah, they'll do their own self-destruction. I mean, I'm telling you, this is probably the most interesting psychological operation I've ever seen, that I've ever encountered. And so, yeah, as soon as, they ease restrictions and they open up the society where everyone intermixes, they already know what to expect. They already know that if you have a whole deluge of people in the hospital and you're one of them who's not getting a vaccine because there's no vaccines, or you're against them, or you're one of them not doing the jillyjuice, they're going to pick and choose who they're going to potentially help with either a respirator, intubation, or who knows what. So I tell you, I got to hand it to the anti-vaxxers and the people who led the anti-vaxxers, because they paved the way for now where we're at. When you get people scared of vaccines and think the medical establishment is purposely destroying them, I mean, they are and they're not. Half the medical industry is destroying people, and half of it is trying to save people and telling you where you are. What's the one half that's saving you? It's the vaccine industry. The one that's destroying you is the prescription drug industry. But people have it mixed up. They're basically throwing away the baby with the bathwater. If you don't understand that there's a place for the medical industry, there's a place for jillyjuice, there's a place for it all, and you have to understand how to balance it all and understand where you ultimately want to end up, then you're going to end up being so extreme that you're going to extreme yourself out of existence. Now, you could do just jillyjuice, but you'll have to deal with the pain. I did 6 days of pain in my head. Now, could I have done the painkiller? I could have, but I did a little bit of peppermint oil and water on a washcloth and put it on my head for a minute or so, not too long. And I allowed the prostaglandins to finally be expressed and then finally regenerate and let blood flow through the parts of my head that were not getting the blood flow. And there was cell regeneration going on at the same time. But I'm telling you, people that take the prescription drugs and take all the painkillers, they're stagnating their own evolution, and they're leaving themselves a sitting duck for these viruses, and they won't take a vaccine either. But they'll be doing all the painkillers and the cannabis in lieu of a prescription drug, and it still stagnates it still dilate, or not dilate, it still constricts their blood vessels. And so, they've paved the way for heart attacks and strokes, and the aging population, are people with constricted blood vessels. So, this is going to be interesting. And so no matter what, those are on the jillyjuice. We'll roll with the punches. We know that we need meat, we need milk, we need processed food, as well as fruits and vegetables. We need a very diverse food supply. We have to deal with pain. We have to get in the jillyjuice to dilate the blood vessels so blood can flow in areas of where they didn't flow, and you're going to have to feel the evolutionary process. And so those that don't want to do jillyjuice, that don't want to get vaccines, don't want to do modern medicine, and only do holistic remedies, which are destroying them anyways, they're going to be the ones that asked for it, and they already are. So that's the true depopulation agenda, is the people ask for their own destruction. And then Dr. Phil made sure that my information got out there, but he definitely demonized me in such a way where those that are completely brain dead in their constriction of their brain muscles will follow the Dr. Phils, the medical entertainers who don't even have a medical license. So this is quite interesting. But hey, I put it out there. You either will listen or not. Either way, it's up to you. But I find it very, very entertaining. All right, bye.